Right.
Why anything exists. Okay, so here's why. So look, if you're all powerful and you're all loving and you're completely selfless, you can create absolutely anything just by willing it into existence. What you would create, and you're completely unbiased, you're right about that, you're completely unbiased, what you would create is absolutely everything. Every possible form, every possible being, every possible thing that could be imagined, you imagine. And why do you do that? So that you can give others a sense of the beauty and love that you are. So the entire point of God's creation is to create finite forms of itself so that those forms can then reunite back with itself to realize what it is, which is infinite goodness. So it's an infinite sharing of goodness.
Why does it create all possibilities?
Look at what's really going on, the genius of what's going on. God has infinite goodness, but because it is one, it has no one to share the infinite goodness with. Who would you share it with? There's nobody else but you. So what you do is you deceive yourself to create an other who you could give that gift to, the gift of yourself, of God. The highest gift in the universe is the realization that you are God. But you can't share that gift with anybody. I can't share that gift with you until you realize that you're me. The realization that you're me is the gift I'm trying to give you.
Why does God care about sharing? Because embedded in that is the valuing of sharing.
It's love. Right? Why do you give your wife a present on Christmas? You are literally sharing, you literally have chosen to share your life with your wife. Why?
You're asking me a question about motivations. I don't know. I could just give you a superficial answer, like why I think. It may not be why I do it, but why I think I may do it.
What God is, technically speaking, it is self-creation. So what it means when I say that you are God, it is to realize that you are literally imagining your own body and hands into existence. You're so conscious that you know how you're doing it. You're so conscious that you are literally conscious of how you're constructing all of reality. So what would you call an infinitely conscious agent that is infinitely intelligent, infinitely good, infinitely powerful, infinitely loving, and self-created? That means God is so free of limitation and even logical constraint that it is able to create itself out of nothing. And it's constantly creating itself, and it's endlessly creative. It is creativity itself. What would you call that? You'd call it God. So the word God is the perfect word. That's what it is. That's what you are. But actually, the way that it happens in practice, when it really happens to you, there's a really interesting psychological sort of dynamic, is that when you become conscious of God, first of all, you become conscious of it, at least this is how it happened for me, you become conscious of it as other than you. So when I first became conscious of God, the first thing I realized is that, holy fuck, God exists. And I was wrong. That was my first realization. At that time, I did not identify with God. That, just to realize that God exists, this was absolutely mind-blowing. It's a complete, your whole life will never be the same after that point. Not as a belief, but more real than anything else that you consider real in your life. So that happens, and then it took me a lot more awakenings to finally realize that, holy fuck, it's not just that God exists, it's that, what is God? See, first you find God, then you start to wonder, but what is God? You still don't understand it. Then you probe deeper and you realize, oh, fuck, of course, it's all one. If it's all one, that means I am God. I've been separated. I've separated myself from what I am because I feared what I am, because I was attached to a finite identity, a finite idea of myself. And so then you realize that, but that's still not where it ends. Then it goes even deeper. You realize God even deeper, what you are even deeper, because you still don't really understand what it is. You question it deeper. You have further awakenings into what is really God? What am I really? And then you realize that God is infinite love. And when you realize that, then you don't feel worthy. You don't feel worthy to accept yourself as that, because it's too good. It's literally so good, it's impossible for it to be so good. And your ego cannot accept it. I mean, I'm a rather arrogant and prideful person, but even when I realize that, it's too good to just latch onto it with your ego. It humbles you so. It humbles you so deeply that you say, you almost do enter, and I did sort of enter into a conversation with God, sort of like in that dialogue where it's like you see God and you say, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're infinite love, you're infinite everything. You created me, and you're penetrating into the heart of what God is. And then as that's happening, you're being showered. God is sort of like radiating love upon you, literally like it's almost like coming closer to the sun. The sun just radiates you with its heat. And you don't feel worthy to be in the presence of the sun. And you just feel so humbled. Like, I mean, you're in tears. You're bawling in tears. You're writhing in ecstasy on the floor. This is like a profound, life-changing experience as this is happening to you. And what brings you to tears is to realize how selfless God is, how beautiful, how good God is. But the final thing that kills you is because, see, there's still a duality there because you're treating it as separate from you. It's like, oh my God, it's amazing. I'm not worthy of it. And then, and you're like, God, how can you be so good? And then the final coup de grace that God bestows upon you is that God says, here, I'm you. I'm giving it all to you. You see, so it's not that I'm above you and that you're some part of me and that I'm infinitely good and you're just a little human down there on the earth and you're trying to, pray to me and all this. It's not like that. The final gift, the ultimate thing God wants for everybody is only one thing, which is to realize that you're God. You're not a part of God. You're not a little figment of God. You're God. And it's when you get that it kills you. Like literally what you experience when, if you are willing to actually surrender your ego, and here you require complete self-surrender, because the only way you can accept the gift of infinite selflessness and love is to completely annihilate any attachment to any physical identity you ever thought you had. When you are completely willing to let go of absolutely everything, the final gift that is given to you is that you simply become God. And at that point, you're just dead. And you just are a pure singularity of love. And at that point, you realize why everything exists and why it must exist and why it can't be anything other than what it is. Because if you think about it, just think about it. If you had the ability, the power to create absolutely anything, what would you create? And the answer is so simple. You would create nothing but infinite love. You would radiate infinite love forever, showering it upon every possible being that you could imagine. This is the only worthy thing for an infinite intellect to do, and God is pure, formless, infinite intellect. It is an intelligence that figured out how to create itself and to radiate love to the maximum number of possible beings that could ever be conceived of. And that's what God is. It's an infinite radiation of love forever, with no end and no beginning. And when you get that, you're done. You've answered every possible question that you could have about yourself and the universe. And it doesn't matter to you what the details are. Science doesn't matter to you. Math doesn't matter to you. Non-duality doesn't matter to you. You're just love. You're just pure love. But yeah, so what I'm saying is so radical that if you... there's many degrees of this, so it depends how far you want to take it. If you take it to its penultimate, I mean, not penultimate, but just to the ultimate. If you take it to the ultimate, if you accept infinite love, you're actually going to destroy the entire physical universe. It's going to cease to exist.
Right. Okay. Let me get something straight here, for the audience as well as myself. When you say the universe will cease to exist, you are meaning from your perspective, but somehow your perspective is also correct.
No, at that point, it's so absolute that you realize that there are no other perspectives but your own, because you're imagining all perspectives, and so you will basically destroy the universe for everything, for everybody. You'll take everything with you. You'll become absolutely nothing forever. And
this has never happened before then.
What has never happened?
That someone or something has realized this infinite truth and destroyed the universe.
That's where it gets tricky. It can only happen to you. There's not anybody else to whom it could happen but to you.
Yeah, okay, and then what happens from other people's perspectives?
They don't exist.
So no one else's perspective exists?
In the ultimate sense, yes.
Help me understand this. You understand where I'm getting this?
It's extremely paradoxical, because it's not that they don't exist per se. It's not just that you're alone in the universe. The reason you're alone is because you're so together. So look what happens. Right now we're sitting here and you're imagining that there's all these different perspectives in people. You, me, dogs and cats and so forth. But as you become more conscious, all those divisions, they are merging towards each other. Look, like this. They're coming together, coming closer together, and it's all a convergence. Imagine it like a cone, like this, right? It's an infinite cone. It goes infinitely far down, but eventually it all converges and moves upward, and all the divisions are dissolving, and all differences between perspectives are dissolving until finally you reach the top of the cone, and at the top of the cone, there's just you. Because you've literally fused yourself into every other thing. So it might, you can interpret it as like, oh, well, that's kind of bleak because I'm just by myself. But that's not quite the right way to think about it. The other way to interpret it is that the reason I'm by myself is because I'm so together. So imagine if we took you and your wife and we merged you together in love so deeply that you weren't just having intercourse with each other, but you were physically fusing your bodies and consciousnesses and minds into each other so completely that by the end of that process, there was no more separation at all between Curt and your wife, and you were just one in love forever. And you would never separate again. You would be in love forever, eternally. But you and her no longer would exist. You would just be complete, undifferentiated oneness. And now imagine that happens with every single human and living being who could ever exist ever in any possible multiverse. All of it merged absolutely into one. You not only merge with humans and cats and dogs, you literally make physical love to couches, chairs, tables, mathematics, numbers, science, computers, simulations, aliens, psychedelics, rocks, trees.
I get it.
All of it merged into one, and you have... That is what love really means. So please understand how dangerous these ideas are. Like, mankind has taken this stuff very seriously because we're talking about survival here, right? We're not just playing philosophy games. People's lives hinge on these ideas, entire philosophies, political systems. So when we're talking about deconstructing the mind, deconstructing reality, we're talking about deconstructing every political ideology, every religious school, every philosophical school, every scientific endeavor, businesses, right? There are entire businesses that will crumble if society at large understands these ideas. those businesses will not be sustainable. So and people will lose their jobs, and their kids will then suffer. So like, this is serious stuff we're doing, if we're actually doing it and not just talking about it.